The massive space station called Concordia Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most moons and held the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Today, they were all very worried. Speaker Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the center of the Great Hall. His blue skin glowed with anger as he looked at the reports on his screen. His forearms moved quickly as he read each piece of bad news. 47 star systems, he said to the other council members. These humans have taken 47 systems in just 6 months. How is this possible? Around the circular table sat the leaders of the 7 most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled together for 3,000 years. No one had ever challenged them before. Now a new species was taking their space without asking permission. Kethrun of the Varanti hegemony slammed his massive fist on the table. His red eyes burned with rage. We should destroy them now. Send our fleets and end this problem quickly. Wait, said the crystal being known as Prime Node 7. We know very little about these humans. They came from nowhere. Their ships use technology we do not understand. We must be careful. Veltar nodded slowly. The Crystal Collective was always wise to listen to. You are right. We will call them here for negotiations. They will see our power and submit like all the others. The other council members agreed. In 3,000 years, every new species had done the same thing. They would arrive at Concordia Prime, see the massive fleets and advanced technology, then beg to join the council as junior members. The humans would be no different. 3 days later, a human ship appeared at the edge of the system. It was smaller than most council ships but moved in a strange way. The ship called itself the Defiance, which made some council members laugh. What could these primitive beings possibly defy? Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stepped off his ship and looked around the docking bay. He was tall for a human with black hair and calm brown eyes. Behind him walked his team. So Young Park carried a data pad and smiled politely at everyone. Dongmin Lee wore what looked like a military uniform but carried no visible weapons. The council had prepared a special welcome. Holographic displays showed the size of their fleets. Massive screens displayed their conquered worlds. Guard robots twice the size of humans lined the walkways. Everything was designed to make new species feel small and helpless. Hyunwoo looked at everything but showed no fear. He nodded to his team and walked calmly toward the Great Hall. So Young whispered something to him and he smiled slightly. When they entered the Great Hall, the council members expected to see the usual reaction. New species always stopped walking and stared with open mouths. They would whisper to each other about how powerful the council was. Some would even fall to their knees. The humans did none of these things. They walked to the center of the hall and stood quietly. Hyunwoo looked around the table, meeting each council member's eyes directly. This was already unusual. Most species were too afraid to look at council members. Welcome, Speaker Veltar said in his most commanding voice. You stand before the Galactic Council, rulers of this galaxy for 3 millennia. We have called you here to discuss your recent expansion. Hyunwoo bowed his head slightly. Thank you for meeting with us. I am Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim, representing the United Earth Alliance and our colonial settlements. Your settlements are in our space, Kethrun growled. You have taken systems that belong to council members. This cannot continue. The human ambassador reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. So Young activated her datapad, and suddenly holographic star maps filled the air above the table. The council members looked surprised. How had these humans gotten past their security systems? I think there has been a misunderstanding, Hyunwoo said calmly. We are not here to ask for permission to settle these systems. We are here to inform you that we have established what we call the human sphere of influence. 47 systems are now under human protection. The hall became very quiet. Council members looked at each other with confusion. No species had ever spoken to them like this. They always asked for permission. They always begged for acceptance. Prime Node 7's crystal body flashed different colors. You speak as if you are our equals. This is not how first contact works. You should be asking to join our civilization. Dongmin Lee stepped forward slightly. With respect, we have studied your civilization carefully. We have decided that we prefer our independence. Veltar's blue skin turned darker. Studied us? How? You have only been in space for a few decades. So Young touched her datapad and new images appeared. Pictures of species the council had conquered long ago. Pictures of their worlds under council rule. Pictures of beings working in council mines and factories. We did not study you directly, Hyunwoo explained. We studied the species you have conquered. Many of them were happy to tell us about council methods. They taught us your languages, your technology, your weaknesses. The council members sat in shocked silence. No one had ever contacted their subject species before. Those beings were kept under careful control. How had the humans even found them? The Kelfari taught us about your energy weapons, So Young said, reading from her datapad. The Nexari showed us your ship designs. The Threx explained your military tactics. They all had very interesting stories about council rule. Kethrun stood up suddenly. His massive form towered over the humans, but they did not step back. Those species belong to us. They have no right to speak to outsiders. They belong to themselves, Yunwu said quietly. That is why we are here. We are establishing the human sphere not just for humans, but for any species that wants to be free. The word free hung in the air like a challenge. The council had never heard a new species use that word before. Freedom was not something they offered. They offered protection, order, and stability in exchange for obedience. Veltar tried to regain control of the situation. You are being foolish. You cannot stand against the combined fleets of the council. We have millions of ships and the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Hyunwoo smiled for the first time since entering the hall. We know exactly how many ships you have. We know where they are stationed and what weapons they carry. We also know something else. He paused and looked around the table again. We know that most of your empire exists because people are afraid to fight you. But we are not afraid. The council members felt something they had not experienced in 3,000 years. For the first time since they had become the rulers of the galaxy, they were not sure what would happen next. Dongmin Li checked his watch and nodded to his ambassador. The negotiations will begin now, Hyunwoo announced. But understand this, we are not here to surrender. We are here to change everything. Kethrun of the Voranti hegemony decided he had heard enough. These humans needed to understand their place in the galaxy. He activated the Great Hall's main display system and filled the air with images of council military power. Look around you, humans, he said in his deep, threatening voice. See what happens to species that challenge the council. The holographic displays showed massive fleets of warships. Dreadnoughts longer than human cities floated in perfect formation. Energy weapons that could destroy planets charged with deadly light. Battle stations the size of moons moved through space like giant metal worlds. The hegemony alone has 12,000 warships. Kethrun continued. The entire council commands over 50,000 vessels. Each one could destroy your entire homeworld with a single shot. The other council members nodded approvingly. This was how things always went. Show the new species your power, and they quickly became much more reasonable. Usually their leaders would start asking for mercy at this point, but Hyunwoo Kim just stood quietly and watched the display. When it finished, he turned to his team. So Young, please show them File 7. So Young Park touched her datapad, and suddenly the humans' own images appeared in the air. But these were not pictures of human ships. Instead, they showed detailed plans of every vessel the council had just displayed. Your hegemony-class dreadnoughts, Dongmin Li said calmly, pointing at the holographic ships. Shield generators located on the lower hull, protected by 40 centimeters of ablative armor. But there is a gap in the shielding where the power conduits connect. A small explosive device placed there would cause a complete system failure. Kethrun's red eyes widened. Those technical details were classified at the highest levels. Even most Voranti military officers did not know about the shield gap. So Young continued the presentation. Zephyrian battlecruisers have excellent energy weapons, but their cooling systems cannot handle sustained fire for more than 12 minutes. After that, they must shut down weapons for at least 4 minutes to prevent overheating. Speaker Veltar stood up quickly. How do you know this? These are military secrets. The Nexari built your cooling systems, Hyunwoo explained. Before you conquered them, they were the best engineers in the galaxy. They still remember how everything works. More images appeared. Crystal Collective hive ships, Aquatic Federation deep space vessels, all with their weaknesses clearly marked. The humans had not just studied council technology, they had learned how to defeat it. This is impossible, Prime Node 7 flashed in angry colors. Our subject species do not have access to this information. Dongmin Li smiled slightly. Your subject species built most of your technology. They mine the materials, construct the components, and maintain the systems. They know everything because they do all the actual work. A new voice spoke from the back of the human group. May I introduce myself? Everyone turned to see a woman stepping forward. She had been so quiet that the council members had almost forgotten she was there. She bowed politely. "I am Era Choi, Intelligence Coordination. I have some additional information you might find interesting." Era activated her own device and the holographic display changed again. This time it showed something that made every council member feel cold with fear. The images were of their homeworlds. Zephyria Prime, Era said, pointing to a blue and silver planet. Population 4 billion. Primary defense orbital weapons platforms in high orbit. Weakness. All platforms are controlled from a single command center in the capital city. More planets appeared. Voranti, the hegemony homeworld. Massive ground-based shields protect the major cities, but the shield generators are located in unprotected valleys outside each city. The Crystal Collective's central node is protected by an asteroid field, she continued, but the asteroids follow predictable orbital patterns. A small force could navigate through them if they knew the timing. Council members began speaking urgently to each other in their own languages. How could these humans possibly know such detailed information about their most protected worlds? "Your intelligence networks have been compromised," Era said simply. "Every species you have conquered still has people working in sensitive positions. They have been watching and learning for generations. When we asked for information, they were happy to share it." Veltar's forearms shook with rage. "You are threatening us. This is an act of war." "No," Hyunwoo said calmly. "This is an act of preparation. We came here hoping for peaceful negotiations. But we are not naive. We know exactly what we are facing." Another human stepped forward. He was younger than the others, with kind eyes that seemed strange in this hall of warriors and politicians. "I am Min Ho-yoon," he said. "I study alien biology and culture. I have spent the last 2 years living with 12 different species that you call your subjects. I learned their languages, ate their food, and heard their stories." Min-ho looked around the table sadly. "Do you know what the Kelfari call the day you conquered them? They call it the day the stars went dark. The Nexari have a saying. Before the council came, we built things for ourselves. Now we build things for our masters. They are our subjects," Kethron growled. "We protect them. We give them order and stability. You give them slavery," Min-ho replied. "And they remember what freedom was like. They told me stories about their histories, their cultures, their dreams. They also told me something else." He paused and looked directly at each council member. "They told me they have been waiting for someone strong enough to help them fight back. They have been preparing for this day for centuries." The hall became very quiet again. The council members were beginning to understand that this was not a normal first contact situation. These humans had not come to surrender or ask for protection. They had come as allies of the council's own subjects. "This is still impossible," Prime Node 7 flashed. "Even if you know our weaknesses, you are just one species. We are 7 of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy." So Young looked at her datapad and smiled. "Actually, we are not just one species anymore. Would you like to see our current alliance membership?" New images filled the air. Star charts showing not just the 47 human systems, but dozens more marked with different colors. The Free Kelfari Republics. 18 systems. So Young read. The Nexari Engineering Collective, 22 systems. The Threx Liberation Front, 31 systems. The Independent Aquatic Worlds, 15 systems. The numbers kept growing, system after system, all marked as allies of the human sphere. The council members realized with growing horror that their subjects had not just been talking to the humans. They had been organizing. Over 200 star systems are now part of our alliance, Hyunwoo announced. And more join us every day. Your former subjects are declaring their independence and we are helping them defend it. Kethron slammed his fist on the table again. We will destroy all of you. Our fleets will burn every rebel world. Dongmin Lee checked his watch again. Your fleets are going to be very busy. In fact, they already are. As if summoned by his words, alarms began ringing throughout Concordia Prime. Emergency lights flashed red and yellow. Council members received urgent messages on their personal communicators. The humans stood calmly in the center of the chaos, watching as the most powerful beings in the galaxy began to panic. The negotiation was just beginning, but the war had already started. The alarms continued to ring throughout Concordia Prime, as council members frantically tried to contact their homeworlds. Red warning lights flashed in the Great Hall, casting strange shadows on the faces of both aliens and humans. Speaker Veltar pressed his hand to his communication device, his blue skin growing pale as he listened to reports. Around the table, other council members were having similar conversations. Their voices grew louder and more worried with each passing moment. "Silence," Veltar finally shouted, and the alarm stopped. The hall became quiet except for the soft humming of the station's systems. "What have you done?" Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood calmly in the center of the chaos. His team remained perfectly composed, as if emergency alarms were a normal part of diplomatic meetings. "We have done nothing aggressive," Hyunwoo said, "but our allies have been busy while we talked. Perhaps now you will be more interested in serious negotiations." He gestured to So Young Park, who activated her datapad once again. This time, the holographic display showed real-time tactical information from across the galaxy. "The Free Kelfari Republics have blockaded the Zephyrian trade routes in the outer spiral," So Young announced. "No council ships are being attacked, but all cargo vessels are being turned away." More information appeared on the display. "The Nexari Engineering Collective has gone on strike in the Varanti shipyards. All construction and maintenance has stopped. The Threx Liberation Front has seized control of the crystal mining operations in the Beta sector." Kethrun stood up so quickly that his chair fell over. "This is war. You cannot do this." "Actually, we can," said a new voice from the human group. A woman stepped forward and bowed politely. "I am Jae Young Seo, diplomatic recorder. I have been documenting everything that has happened in this hall today." She held up a small device that glowed softly. "According to galactic law, any species has the right to withdraw from agreements they did not freely make. The Kelfari, Nexari, Threx, and other species were conquered by force. They never agreed to council rule. They have been our subjects for centuries," Veltar protested. "They are part of council space now. They are sentient beings with the right to choose their own government," Jae Young replied calmly. "We have simply reminded them that they have this choice." Prime Node 7 flashed angry colors. "You are destroying the order that has kept peace in this galaxy for 3,000 years. "Peace for whom?" asked Min Ho-yoon. "The Kelfari told me about the rebellion on their fourth world. 2 million people died when your fleets bombarded their cities. The Nexari showed me the mass graves where you buried the engineers who refused to build your weapons. That was necessary for stability," the crystal being replied. "Sometimes force must be used to maintain order. Then you understand why we are prepared to use force to restore freedom," Hyunwoo said. He walked closer to the council table, and for the first time his calm expression became serious. "We did not come here to destroy anything. We came to offer you a choice. You can accept change or you can be changed by force." So Young activated another display. This one showed a formal document with official seals and signatures. "The human sphere presents the following terms for galactic peace," Hyunwoo announced. "First, immediate independence for all species currently under council protection who wish to be free. Second, establishment of free trade zones where all species can conduct business without council interference. Third, recognition of human sovereignty over our claimed territories and those of our allies." The council members stared at the document in shock. No one had ever made demands of the council before. For 3,000 years they had been the ones who decided what happened in the galaxy. "This is ridiculous," Veltar laughed, but his laugh sounded nervous. "You have 6 ships here. We have the largest military force in galactic history. You cannot possibly think we will agree to these terms." 6 ships here, Dongmin Lee corrected, "but not 6 ships total." Era Choi stepped forward again. "Would you like to know where the rest of our fleet is right now?" Before anyone could answer, she activated her own display. The holographic map of the galaxy appeared again, but this time it showed moving dots of light. Hundreds of them, all moving towards specific targets. "Human Task Force Alpha is currently approaching the Zephyrian home system," Era announced. "Task Force Beta is en route to Varanti space. Task Forces Gamma through Theta are moving toward the homeworlds of the other council members." The council members felt their blood turn cold. While they had been meeting here, thinking they were negotiating with a small group of primitives, the humans had been positioning their entire fleet for a coordinated attack. "This is impossible," Kethrun said, but his voice was quieter now. "Our early warning systems would have detected large fleets moving through our space. Your early warning systems were designed to watch for enemy fleets," Dongmin explained. "But our ships have been moving through neutral space and the territories of our allies. We have been planning this operation for months. And you have been helping us," added a new voice. Another human woman stepped forward. She had been so quiet that most council members had forgotten she was there. I am Heejin Kwan, communications specialist. For the past 6 months, I have been coordinating with resistance groups throughout council space. Every piece of information you thought was secure has been shared with us. She smiled apologetically. Your own subject species have been our intelligence network. Every ship movement, every military order, every strategic decision has been reported to us within hours. The truth hit the council members like a physical blow. Their entire empire was built on the labor and knowledge of conquered species. Those same species had been watching, learning, and planning for centuries. When the humans arrived, they had not found primitive subjects. They had found a galaxy-wide resistance movement waiting for leadership. You used our own people against us. Prime Node 7 flashed in dim, defeated colors. We used people who wanted to be free, Hyunwoo corrected. They chose to help us because they remembered what life was like before the council. Veltar looked around the table at his fellow council members. For 3,000 years, they had been the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Now they were discovering that their power had been an illusion, built on the cooperation of those they had conquered. What happens if we refuse your terms? He asked quietly. Hyunwoo looked sad for a moment. Then there will be war. Not just between us and you, but between freedom and slavery across the entire galaxy. Your former subjects are ready to fight. We are ready to help them. But there is still a chance for peace, So Young added. You can choose to work with us instead of against us. You can help build something better than the old empire. Jae Young held up her recording device again. I am documenting your response to our terms. What will you tell the galaxy? The council members looked at each other. 3,000 years of absolute power was being challenged by beings they had never even heard of a year ago. Everything they had built was falling apart, and they had to decide what to do next. Outside the Great Hall, more alarms began to ring. More reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The old order was ending, and something new was being born in its place. The question was whether it would be born in peace or in war. The Great Hall erupted into chaos as emergency communications poured in from across the galaxy. Each council member's personal communicator buzzed and flashed with urgent messages. The steady hum of the space station was broken by the sound of voices shouting in different alien languages. Veltar pressed his communicator to his ear, his forearms shaking as he listened. His blue skin turned almost white as the reports came in. Velterra Station is under complete blockade, he announced to the hall. No ships can enter or leave the system. Our main trade hub has been shut down completely. Kethrun's massive fist crushed his communicator as he received his own reports. The hegemony's primary shipyards are dark. All construction has stopped. My military advisors report that the Nexari workers have disappeared from their posts. The Crystal Collective's mining operations in 7 systems have gone offline. Prime Node 7 flashed in rapid, panicked colors. Our energy production has dropped by 60%. Around the table, each council member received similar news. Systems that had been under their control for centuries were suddenly beyond their reach. Trade routes were blocked. Military installations were compromised. Industrial centers had gone silent. The humans stood calmly in the center of the storm. While the most powerful beings in the galaxy panicked around them, they remained perfectly composed. How is this possible? Demanded Admiral Yextar of the Aquatic Federation, water streaming from her gill slits in distress. We have garrison fleets in every system. Where are our defenses? A new human stepped forward from the group. She was small and wore simple clothes, but her eyes held a sharp intelligence that made the council members uncomfortable. I am Subin. Oh, strategic coordination, she said in a quiet voice that somehow carried clearly through the chaos. Your garrison fleets are exactly where they have always been, but they are not fighting us. She activated a small device and the holographic display changed to show live feeds from across the galaxy. Council fleets hung motionless in space while human and rebel ships moved freely around them. Your ship commanders are receiving conflicting orders, Subin explained. Some orders come from your central command, telling them to attack the rebels. Other orders come from sources they trust telling them to stand down. That is impossible, Kethrun growled. Our communication codes are unbreakable. Subin smiled slightly. Your codes were created by the Nexari cryptographers, the same Nexari who have been part of our alliance for months. They know every code, every frequency, every security protocol. More displays appeared showing detailed tactical information that made the council members' worst fears come true. Their own communication networks had been compromised from the beginning. Every order they gave was being intercepted, analyzed, and often countermanded by the resistance. Your fleet commanders are confused, Subin continued. They receive orders to attack rebel positions, but then they receive new orders with proper authentication codes, telling them those positions are friendly. They receive intelligence reports that later turn out to be false. They are paralyzed by uncertainty. Wan Jin Cha, another human strategic analyst, joined the explanation. Meanwhile, our own forces know exactly where your ships are and what they are doing. We have been monitoring your communications for months. Every strategic response you might consider has already been anticipated. The displays shifted to show real-time tactical situations. In system after system, council fleets were being systematically outmaneuvered by smaller forces that seemed to know their every move. The Zephyrian Third Fleet received orders to protect the Velterra trade station, Wan Jin explained, pointing to one display. But they also received intelligence reports suggesting that human ships were massing for an attack on their homeworld. They chose to return home, leaving the station undefended. The Varanti battle group in the Outer Rim was told to reinforce the shipyards, Subin added. But then they received emergency distress calls from 3 different directions. They split their forces to respond to all of them. None of the distress calls were real. Prime Node 7's crystal body dimmed with despair. You have been playing with us. This entire negotiation was a distraction. No, Ambassador Hyunwoo said firmly. This negotiation is real. We genuinely hoped you would choose peace, but we are not naive enough to enter discussions without being prepared for war. The tactical displays continued to update with devastating news. Council positions throughout the galaxy were being abandoned, surrounded, or captured. But the humans were right. It was not happening through superior firepower. It was happening through superior coordination and intelligence. Your empire has always depended on keeping your subjects isolated from each other, Era Choi observed. The Kelfari were not allowed to communicate with the Nexari. The Threx were forbidden from trading with the aquatic worlds. You kept them separated so they could not organize against you. But we changed that, Min Ho-yoon added. For the first time in centuries, all of these species are working together. They are sharing information, coordinating their actions, and supporting each other. The displays showed the proof of his words. Kelfari ships were defending Nexari industrial sites. Threx ground forces were protecting aquatic underwater cities. Species that had been enemies for generations were now allies against their common oppressor. This is not just a human military operation, Hyunwoo explained. This is a galaxy-wide liberation movement. We just helped them organize what they already wanted to do. Veltar looked around the table at his fellow council members. Their empire was collapsing not because of human weapons, but because of human ideas. The concept of freedom was spreading faster than any military force could stop it. What do you want from us? He asked in a defeated voice. We want you to choose, So Young Park replied. You can fight this change and watch your worlds burn in a war you cannot win. Or you can join us in building something better. Join you, Kethrun snarled. We are the council. We do not serve others. Then you do not understand what we are offering, Jae Young Seo said calmly. We are not asking you to serve us. We are asking you to serve yourselves and your people in a new way. She gestured to the displays showing the tactical situation. Look at what is happening. Your people are tired of constant military alerts. Your economies are collapsing because trade has been disrupted. Your young people are questioning why they should fight to maintain an empire that brings them nothing but enemies. You could be leaders in a new galactic federation, Hyunwoo offered. Partners instead of rulers. Contributors instead of conquerors. Your knowledge and experience could help build a better future for everyone. Wan Jin checked his tactical displays again. But you need to decide quickly. Every hour you delay, more systems declare their independence. Every day you wait, your position becomes weaker. The council members looked at the real-time reports showing their empire crumbling around them. 3,000 years of absolute power was ending, and they had to choose whether to go down fighting or to help build what came next. Outside the Great Hall, the alarms had stopped. But the silence was somehow more frightening than the noise had been. It was the silence of a galaxy holding its breath, waiting to see whether the future would be born in peace or in war. The humans waited patiently for an answer, but their message was clear. The old order was over, with or without the Council's cooperation. The great hall of Concordia Prime had become strangely quiet. The emergency alarms had stopped, but the tension in the air was so thick it seemed hard to breathe. The council members sat in their chairs like statues, staring at the holographic displays that showed their empire falling apart in real time. Hours had passed since the humans first presented their demands. In that time, the reports had only gotten worse for the council. System after system was declaring independence. Fleets were refusing orders. Entire populations were rising up against their council governors. Speaker Veltar finally broke the silence. His voice was much quieter than it had been at the beginning of the day. "How many systems have we lost?" he asked. Subin-O checked her datapad. "As of 30 minutes ago, 147 systems have declared independence from council rule. Another 63 have expelled their council administrators but have not yet made formal declarations. 210 systems, Veltar repeated slowly, in less than 1 day. The numbers will continue to grow, Wan Jin-Cha said matter-of-factly. This movement has its own momentum now. Each successful rebellion encourages others to try. Prime Node 7 flashed in dim, tired colors. How did we not see this coming? How could so many of our subjects be planning rebellion without us knowing? Min Ho-Yun looked sad as he answered. Because you stopped seeing them as people. They became just workers, just resources, just numbers in your reports. But they never stopped being intelligent beings with their own dreams and hopes. He gestured to the displays showing the rebellion spreading across the galaxy. Every Kelfari miner who dreamed of seeing their homeworld free. Every Nexari engineer who remembered building things for their own people instead of their conquerors. Every Threx farmer who wanted their children to know what freedom felt like. They have been waiting for this day for centuries. Admiral Yextar of the Aquatic Federation spoke for the first time in hours. Water still streamed from her gill slits, but now it seemed more like tears than panic. My people conquered the deep currents worlds 300 years ago, she said slowly. We told ourselves it was for their own good. They were always fighting each other. We brought them peace. Did you bring them peace or did you bring them silence? Asked Yunjung Lim, the human legal expert who had been quietly observing the proceedings. I do not know anymore, the Admiral admitted. Yunjung activated her own datapad. I have been reviewing the legal status of Council territories. Under galactic law, conquest does not create permanent ownership of other species. The fact that you have ruled them for centuries does not give you the right to continue ruling them. We have maintained order, Kethron protested, but his voice lacked its earlier strength. Without the Council, there would be chaos and war. There is already war, Taeho Kim pointed out. He was the human coordinator for humanitarian efforts, and his displays showed a different kind of information. But look at what kind of war it is. His holographic displays showed the ongoing conflicts across the galaxy. But instead of the massive destruction that everyone expected, most of the fighting was surprisingly limited. The Free Kelfari are blockading Council trade routes, but they are not attacking civilian vessels, Taeho explained. The Nexari have shut down military production, but they are still maintaining life support systems. The Threx have seized control of agricultural worlds, but they are still feeding the populations. Your former subjects are fighting for freedom, not revenge, Hyunwoo observed. They want to be free, but they do not want to become conquerors themselves. Yunjung added more legal information. Many of the newly independent systems have already sent messages requesting membership in the proposed Galactic Federation. They want to be part of a larger community, but as equals, not subjects. The council members began to understand that this was not just a military rebellion. It was a complete restructuring of how the galaxy would be governed. The old system of a few powerful species ruling over many weaker ones was being replaced by something entirely different. What exactly is this Galactic Federation you keep mentioning? Veltar asked. So Young Park activated a new set of displays. These showed proposed organizational charts and governance structures. A voluntary association of free species, she explained. Each member world gets a voice in decisions that affect them. No single species or group of species can make laws for everyone else. That sounds like chaos, Prime Node 7 flashed weakly. It sounds like democracy, Jae Young Seo corrected. Something that has worked well for humans and is now being embraced by many other species. The displays showed examples of how the new system would work. Trade agreements negotiated between equals, mutual defense pacts freely chosen, Scientific cooperation based on shared interests rather than forced labor. But what about security? Admiral Yextar asked. What about maintaining peace between species that have been enemies for centuries? Tejo's humanitarian displays provided the answer. Look at what is happening right now. Kelfari and Nexari forces are working together to protect refugee populations. Threx and aquatic teams are coordinating food distribution to worlds affected by the fighting. Former enemies are becoming allies because they have a common goal. The goal of freedom unites them, Minho added. It turns out that most species fight each other only when they are competing for the attention and resources of their conquerors. When they are free to determine their own futures, they find they have much more in common than they thought. Veltar looked around the table at his fellow council members. Some of them were still angry and defiant. Others looked defeated and broken. A few seemed to be genuinely considering what the humans were offering. What would happen to us? He asked quietly. If we agreed to this federation, what would our role be? Whatever role you choose, Hyunwoo answered. The Zephyrian people have valuable experience in administration and trade. The Varanti have military expertise that could help with peacekeeping. The Crystal Collective has scientific knowledge that could benefit everyone. You are offering us the chance to contribute rather than control, Eunjung clarified. To be part of something larger than yourselves instead of trying to dominate it. The tactical displays updated again, showing that the rebellion had now spread to over 300 systems. The old council empire was effectively finished whether the council members accepted it or not. Some of your people have already made their choice, Subin-O announced. The Zephyrian colonial administration on the Outer Rim has declared independence from the Empire and requested Federation membership. 2 Varanti fleet commanders have defected with their ships. Even some Crystal Collective nodes have broken away from the central authority. The council members realized that the choice was not just being offered to them as leaders. It was being offered to every being in the galaxy, including their own people. The old order is ending, Ambassador Hyunwoo said gently. You can fight against that change and be swept away by it, or you can help shape what comes next. But you cannot stop it. He looked around the table at each council member. We came here hoping for a peaceful transition. That hope is still alive, but it will not last forever. Every hour you delay costs lives and causes suffering. What do you need from us? Veltar asked. A choice, So Young replied simply. Peace or war? Cooperation or destruction? The future or the past? The council members looked at each other one more time. 3,000 years of absolute power was ending, and they had to decide what they wanted their legacy to be.